Hi guys, now I've called this video my pacing system because I want to give you a sort of example of how to pace yourself, but of course um, the way you pace yourself with chronic fatigue is going to be unique to you because we all have different severity and different symptoms. The best way that I can sort of give you examples of how best to pace yourself is by giving you examples from my own experience. So these days, because I am mostly recovered and my day-to-day function is pretty good, I still have to be careful. So I still have a pacing system. But when I was first diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was working in a job, it was really, really difficult. Obviously, the need to rest as much as possible is paramount. Though I did devise a way, because I was working in education, so I had little breaks between classes where I would go and sit in my car and put the seat back and just lied there with my eyes shut for 10 minutes. That was one way of coping with it. It wasn't ideal. It was one way I had to cope with and just get ready for the next class. But I also had to go to bed really, really early when I was working in a job like that, just to be able to function. But obviously that job, that amount of pacing was not really ideal and was not going to help me just to get through the day, but it didn't really help me to recover. And I knew I didn't really enjoy my job at that time anyway, and it was very, very stressful, and I knew I had to make a change. So that's when I left that job and I became self-employed, which of course helped because being self-employed allowed me to be flexible with timing. Of course, it did mean a big drop in finance, but that was, feeling healthy, recovering from symptoms was far, far better than working in a job with a fairly good pay, but feeling awful all the time. And being self-employed also allowed me to continue with my writing career as well as working for clients. So that was a really, really good thing. So how do I, from then on and to now, how do I pace myself? Well, basically, pacing yourself means making sure that every time you do something that's physically that is physical exertion, that you take a break afterwards and rest as much as you can. I do believe that exercise is a really good thing with chronic fatigue. Obviously, in other videos, I've talked about that. It's really, really important to start very, very, very low and work up very, very slowly. But after you do any exercise, you need to rest. So if you do yoga, for example, it's really important that you always do shavasana afterwards, which is a full relaxation. And so if you go for a walk, then you come back, lie down for a few minutes. Now, another thing that I do, there are always things that we need to do that actually take up a lot of energy. If you haven't got somebody else to do that for you, then it can be really difficult. And one of the things I've always struggled with is housework. I think one thing we need to do is let go of the need to be perfectionists because when it comes to housework and chronic fatigue, you can't be a perfectionist. Obviously you have to keep things clean and hygienic, but we don't need to go over the top. I had a chronic fatigue coach at one point. She once said to me, the housework police will not visit. So when it comes to housework, pacing is really, really important. And one of the things I do now is when I vacuum, I do not vacuum the whole house in one go. Because I would find that too exhausting and probably lead to a crash even now. So I vacuum one room at a time, sort of in a kind of rota, only when I feel up to it and I've got the time. So one room at a time, and do what you can when you can. And it's always easy to do more than your body wants you to do. So don't beat yourself up if that happens. But always, always, after any exertion, take a rest. It's up to you. You need to find out for yourself how much you need to do and how much you need to rest afterwards. So, you know, after an initial diagnosis, that is one of the things that you kind of need to learn to work out for yourself. But basically, let me go through what I do now as a person who is, I mean, I call myself almost recovered because I've learnt how to manage and not have lots of symptoms all the time. Basically, I do this by, after my initial sort of getting up routine, one of the first things I do is some yoga, followed by Shavasana, and then I walk the dog and get breakfast and have a little, maybe a 5-minute break. And I do some work, and then I have a coffee break for half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling in the day. That day, and then I will go on and do some more work. You know, it's usually desk work, or maybe it's filming these videos or doing client work. And then at lunchtime, I take a full hour's break. After I've had my lunch, I will lie down on the sofa, maybe watch a bit of television, whatever, but I always take a full hour and make sure that I rest as much as possible during that hour. Then I do a bit more work. Then I take a tea break for about half an hour, again resting with my feet up. Then do a bit more work. Then I stop for the evening, put my feet up for a bit, watch a bit of television, cook supper, have supper, and then rest again until it's time to go to bed. So that's what I do. And yes, sometimes I feel that, you know, I could work longer hours, but then if I worked longer hours, I'd be more tired and my work would not be as efficient. So you have to balance out what you can do and you know, what your body wants you to do and needs to do, and find your own way of managing your symptoms with pacing. So that is my advice. Just, you know, think about what your body needs, rest as much as you can, and work out your pacing system that suits you. Bye for now.